And even the base Model 3 will do 0 to 60 miles an hour or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in less than 6 seconds. At Tesla, we don't make slow cars. Okay, do you want to see the car? Yeah! Well, we don't have it for you tonight. I'm just kidding, of course. It's April Fool's somewhere. All right, let's bring them out. If there's ever sort of a apocalyptic scenario of some kind, hypothetically, you just press the bioweapon defense mode button. This is a real button. Yeah, we're trying to be a leader in apocalyptic defense scenarios. So actually what's important here is survives a nuclear explosion or you get a full refund. Okay, full refund. It'll be the biggest building in the world, biggest single building in the world by footprint, and second only in volume to the Boeing factory in Washington State.
It's really, really huge. And if you sort of think of something that maybe you're familiar with, like a 747, that's pretty big, right? Well, right. We can fit about 100 747s parked in the footprint of this building.
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, I mean, we can fit 50 billion hamsters. So this is a roof that's going to be better looking than a normal roof. It's going to last practically forever. Like I wanted to have an infinite year warranty, but then the finance department said, well, that's difficult to account for. So I said, well, okay, it's infinite or when your house falls down, whichever comes first. Really fundamental message that consumers should be taking today is that it's financially insane to buy anything other than a Tesla. It'll be like owning a horse in 3 years. I mean, fine if you want to own a horse, but you should go into it with that expectation. I went to, speaking of crazy things, went to Russia 3 times to negotiate a deal to buy a couple of the largest ICBMs in the Russian fleet. A strange experience.
How do you even get into that negotiation?
Well, you talk to people who know people, and pretty soon you're talking to the Russian rocket forces, and they. It turns out Russia's quite a capitalist society.
What would be your mediocre superpower? An example of a mediocre superpower would be, one of the best ones we've ever gotten is this guy who wished to temporarily detach his arm while spooning with a girl. Sometimes it's staying.
That's what he wants to do with a girl?
You're talking about humans on this rocket going to Mars?
Sure, yeah.
So, are there any dangers? I have read that there are radiation.
Are there dangers?
What could possibly go wrong? That's ridiculous. Come on.
Hi, Elon. I'm John Younger, and I have to say,
pour some more wine here.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, this is going to get better and better as the.
It is.
But then after we had the Model S and Model X, I thought it'd be pretty funny if we had the Model E, and then like Ford threatened to sue us. Ford killed sex.
Franz, could you try to break this glass, please?
Sure? Yeah. Oh my God. Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
Should we try on the beer?
Sorry? Yeah. It didn't go through. That's a plus side.
Let's try the right.
Try that one, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, man.
It didn't go through. All right. Not bad. Room for improvement. We did actually throw everything. We threw wrenches. We threw everything. We even literally threw the kitchen sink at the glass, and it didn't break. For some weird reason, it broke now. I don't know why. Should just fix it in post.
I think within the next year, we'll be able to land the rocket intact. We'll be able to land the rocket, just not intact.
If you could take one person to Mars, who would it be?
But we're not like have to populate the planet or anything.
No, you don't have to. It could be a
someone extremely fertile.
So let's go back to another bet that you made with yourself, I guess. I mean, a kind of crazy bet. You'd made some money from the sale of PayPal. You decided to build a space company. Why on earth would someone do that?
Got that question a lot, that's true. People would say, did you hear the joke about the guy who made a small fortune in the space industry, and he, obviously started with a large one as the punchline. And so I tell people, well, I was trying to figure out the fastest way to turn a large fortune into a small one. And they'd look at me like, oh, is he serious?
Thank you for anyone who's bought our flamethrower. You will not be sorry, or maybe you will. It won't be boring.
Related anecdote that we went on a date. All I was talking about was electric cars. That was not a winning conversation.
So it was a bit of a monologue, was it?
Yeah, she said she said the first question I asked her was, "Do you ever think about electric cars?" She said, no, she never does.
So you learn from that. That wasn't the best shout-out line.
Wasn't great. But it has recently it's been more effective.
What is your thought on how to approach new industries, innovative areas, and when's the right time to jump in or not? Or do you just, is there no crystal ball, or is it a crystal ball or a Ouija board? I mean, how do you figure out what you should go after?
Well, definitely the Ouija board, of course. Much more reliable than the crystal ball.
Yeah, I was being accused of being, an idiot, a charlatan, an idiot and a charlatan, like not even a good charlatan.
Then something I'd like to do, which I think many of our engineers will be hearing this in real time, is have the charge connector plug itself in. like an articulating, like a sort of a snake, like Metal Gear Solid or something.
Well, first of all, I should say I'm a big fan of NASA. In fact, at one point, my password was I love NASA.
Everyone in this room is inspired by you. Who are you inspired by?
Well, Kanye West, obviously.
A friend of mine was actually talking to a friend of mine this weekend, and he said, when's the last time you had a vacation where you didn't do work for a week? And I was like, well, that would be like year 2000, when I had malaria.
You're obviously thinking about, lots of things, but when you play games, are you satisfied, or are there things that frustrate you about games? What do you want to see games do in the future?
I don't know if I should say.
Yeah. You working on a game too?
No.
Okay.
No, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, a bit more R-rated, I don't know.
Okay.
Well, so for whatever reason, I didn't get a reply from Netscape, and I actually tried hanging out in the lobby, but I was too shy to talk to anyone, so I was just standing in the lobby, and then I just walked in. Did you have your resume with you, or was it? Yeah, actually, it was pretty embarrassing. I was just sort of standing there, trying to see if there's someone I could talk to, and then I just couldn't. I was too scared to talk to anyone, so then I left.
There have been 3 flights so far, and each one has obviously the goal is to get into orbit. Each one has sort of not made it. How did you deal with the?
Well, we got to space.
Okay, you got to space, but it didn't. You didn't get where you wanted to go.
Not all the way.
Sorry.
Well,
So, but
you don't necessarily go all the way on the first few dates.
SpaceX has.
Actually, I mean, there's sometimes a debate about going to Mars one way and whether that makes things easier. And I think for the initial flights, perhaps, but for long term, to get the cost down, you need the spacecraft back. Whether the people come back is irrelevant. But you must have the ship back, because those things are expensive. You hear all these rebuttals, like, aren't there all these problems on Earth that we need to deal with, and shouldn't we focus on that? And the answer is yes. I mean, our primary focus should be problems on Earth, but I think that there should be some small amount that's given over to the establishment of a colony on Mars and making life multiplanetary. by small amount, I mean some number less than 1% of our resources. So, it's not as important as say healthcare, but it's more important than like say cosmetics. I mean, I'm in favor of cosmetics. I like them; they're great. But lipstick or colony on Mars, I don't.
Earlier in this conversation, we don't want to do business with jerks.
Who does?
Right.
The Model X is now over 2 years late. What went wrong?
Well, I do have an issue with punctuality, I have to admit. Here we are on top of our giant ball of liquid oxygen. They say SpaceX has big balls, and it's true.
Hi, my name is Rahul Sanad from Los Angeles, and I have a Tesla watch.
We do not make Tesla watches, I should point out.
It's electric. But
It's more dangerous to patent than not to patent.
Since our primary competitors are national governments, the enforceability of patents is questionable. When people have tried to make a reusable system, they found that they would get some portion of the way and then conclude that success was not one of the possible outcomes. In government programs, of course, the program would still continue for quite some time.
Your parts service model, if you're talking about the scale that you're discussing here, needs to clearly evolve, right? In order to meet all of this demand for parts and service. What are you going to do there?
Well, I guess we're going to hire a lot of people in service and get lots of parts.
Can you give me any kind of a hint what this is that's coming this year?
Well, I mean, I'd be making it up as I go along, which is not unusual for me.
Thanks for the introduction.
Finally, you're obviously a very competitive person. You're competing with the likes of Jeff Bezos in...
Jeff who? There will not be a steering wheel. In 20 years, it will be like having a horse. The analogy I use with my team is like, guys, imagine we had, $6 million in a pallet of cash, and that was, $6 million falling through the sky, and would we try to catch it? I say we do. I say we give it a shot. Worst case, it ends up at the bottom of the ocean, but maybe we do catch it and then pay $6 million.
Let me know when that pallet of cash is coming back.
Yeah.
I'd like to give it a shot, too.
It might as well be a pallet of cash.
Does that speed it up, or?
That's the slowed down version. First generation was parachutes to a water landing, then, arguably sort of wings and gear, landing legs, landing gear. Then like the sort of third generation is propulsive landing with precision. I mean, if you saw a movie about the future with aliens landing, how do they land? Like that. Okay, obviously, they don't it'd be kind of weird if the aliens landed in the ocean with parachutes. I'm like, okay, nothing to fear. Well, I think any natural resource extraction on Mars would be, the output would be for Mars. Like, it definitely wouldn't make sense to transport stuff 200 million miles back to Earth. Honestly, like if you had like crack cocaine on Mars, like in pre-packaged, pallets, it still wouldn't make sense to transport it back here. Maybe good times for the Martians, but not back here. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out. And often I'll be told, but you could get more payload if you made it expendable. I say, yes, you could also get more payload from an aircraft if you got rid of the landing gear and the flaps and just parachute it out when you got to your destination. But that would be crazy, and you would sell 0 aircraft. Man, I tell you, I'm pretty sure I'd know, if there were aliens. I have not seen any sign of aliens. So they're like, well, is the military hiding aliens in Area 51 or something, That's a popular meme. Well, let me tell you, the fastest way to increase defense funding would be to bring out, like, hey, we found an alien. People are like,
More money for defense, definitely. This is guaranteed. They would be like on display in 2 seconds.
Thanks, Elon. And I don't believe you about the aliens.
I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I hope they're like, well, if they are here, I hope they're nice. You know, they haven't killed us yet, so they must be not that bad.
So you have no wires poking out of your head. Very, very important. So it's basically Bluetooth to your phone. Because we'll have to watch the App Store updates for that one. Make sure we don't have a driver issue. We have made, Monkey has been able to control the computer with its brain. Just, FYI.
I didn't realize we were running that result today, but there it goes.
Anyone who, for the early people that go to Mars, it'll be far more dangerous. I mean, really, it kind of reads like Shackleton's ad for Antarctic explorers. It's like difficult, dangerous, good chance you'll die. Excitement for those who survive.
The system is fully capable of carrying biological cargo, which is, people.
Well, I think we'll probably have a mode that goes beyond Mad Max mode to LA traffic mode. Yeah. Well, Mad Max would have a hard time in LA traffic, I think. You could power the entire United States with about, let's say, 150 to 200 square kilometers of solar panels. The entire United States. Take a corner of Utah. Not much going on there. I've been there.
We do hire some MBAs, but it's usually in spite of the MBA, not because of it.
We just have a genetic lifespan. It's kind of like say if you take like a fruit fly and you gave it the best exercise and diet possible and like the perfect life, it's still, maybe it'll live like 4 weeks instead of 3 weeks.
The follow-up question would be, how can you manage so many things simultaneously? 3 companies.
Well, I don't recommend this. I really, it's not good for quality of life.
Now, what about government policies? Like, one of the things that I would like to do is I would just like to keep working on my email as I'm driving to work.
Sure.
There's a 30,
some people do that already.
Like I said, I would like to do it without breaking the law.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That picture at the end is a picture of one of the circuit boards inside the Roadster, right?
We try to confuse the aliens as much as possible. There are a few things I'd recommend, which is keep laws short. Long laws, it's like that's something suspicious is going on if there's a long law. If the size of the law exceeds the word count of Lord of the Rings, something's...
How it is to be successfully growing a small business to a large business.
Okay, well, I mean, to be frank, I don't think there's like, it's intrinsically good to grow a small business to a large business. Sometimes a small business should be a small business. Sometimes businesses shouldn't exist. Sure, it's true.
Yeah, there's some joke about like, if reality was a video game, it's sort of like the graphics are great. The plot's terrible.
Yeah.
And the spawn time's really long.
In order for a production to grow, we have to have the whole supply chain move in cadence. Because there are several thousand unique parts in the car. And even if some of those parts, even if just a few of them are missing, then we can't raise production, because then people are missing parts of their car and they get very upset about that.
It's a car that is designed for you to have the most fun. We keep putting gems on it, like the Fart app, of course. That's one of my favorites. It's like perhaps my finest work.
That's what the free market. I don't mean to have it in black and white. It's like it's not so long ago. They didn't even have color cameras back then. It was 2010.
It's really just the cost of building the tunnels. But really, a tunnel's a hole in the ground. Like, how hard can it really be? I mean, just...
That's super fucking hard.
There's a video.
So why is that important? Why has this moment been important for you?
Well, so in order to reuse the boost stage, which is about 70% of the cost of the rocket, so that
Which cost is that? How much is that?
well, I mean, it's sort of on the order of $30 to $35 million.
Right, so you want to save that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I tell my team, it's like, imagine there was a pallet of cash that was plummeting through the atmosphere, and it was going to burn up and smash into tiny pieces. Would you try to save it?
Right.
Probably yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Right, okay.
Whoever's like, when they're like first launched like a 747 or DC-3 or something like that, I bet the chief engineer was like, I can't believe that thing's flying.
2013 is when we first started doing vertical takeoff and landing tests. And then 2014 is when we were able to have the first orbital booster do a soft landing in the ocean. The landing was soft, it fell over and exploded, but landing for 7 seconds, it was good. In terms of production, the thing that's going to be the major challenge for us over the next 6 to 9 months is how do we build a huge number of cars. I mean, and frankly, we're going to be in production hell. Welcome. Welcome to production hell.
What would have happened if the fourth one hadn't worked?
We would have failed. Yeah.
But let's talk about one of the failures were spectacular. I mean, I would go out to the island, 𝙀𝙀 with Elon, and seeing giant exploding rockets is quite an amazing sight. And I was one of the early investors in SpaceX, and I said, you know what? If all I get to do is to see these rockets explode, well worth every dime I put into this company.
There's something to be said about brotherly support.
We want that to feel like a work of art. Like if you open up the door, it should just be this amazing experience. I mean, this may sound a bit silly, but it should just be like, ah. And it holds 1,200 tons of liquid oxygen. So we tested it. So we successfully tested it up to its design pressure. And then went a little further. The issue with existing batteries is that they suck, okay? They're really horrible. I always used to say, well, I think the car is really safe unless you drive it off a cliff, and then somebody drove it off a cliff. Fine.
Hi, I'm Eric Ward. I'm a graduate student in the Systems Design and Management program. And I was reading recently a Japanese construction company, I think it's 𝙀𝙀𝙀, just announced plans to make a space elevator by, I think, 2050. And I'm wondering if SpaceX has a response.
I say, bravo.
If you buy a gasoline car that's not full self-driving, this is like riding a horse and using a flip phone. I'm like, hello. This is not wise.
Has the sweetest smile.
My little buttercup, where do you stay a while?
Won't you stay a while? Moonbeams meet the sky, and you and I will walk the by on by.
Well, this is really winning.